So right now we are going to call in our next guest, which we're also excited to hear from, Valerie Davidson.
Oh, yay!
There you are. We just found you just in the nick of time.
Welcome everybody. Jamai Quyana Nurr'araaluk Davidson Mamterilleq Davidson Washington being take on outwa, just nothing outwa, Shinket outwa, Hike outwa. My Yupik names are Nurr'araaluk Davidson. My name is Valerie Davidson. I'm Yupik from Bethel. My mother's family, or my mom's name is Quyana, or Tilly Davidson, and she's from Quyana. My father's family is Gustuk, where they're not Yupik, and they're from Portage, Washington. I also was recently adopted by the Jackson family in Cake, and they're both Cakneq and Haida. I want to acknowledge my clan mother, Della Cheney, who's on the phone right now on the video conference. I saw her smiling face earlier. And I also want to acknowledge my clan sister, Liz, whose family adopted me. I was given that Haida name, Cakneq, which I'm told means Susie lady. So I tell myself it's only because I have a really loud, authentic Native woman's laugh. So, Quyana, for the opportunity to be able to spend some virtual time with all of you. I know it's a really uncertain time, and it's okay. It's okay if it's uncertain times, because it's really important for us to remember that although these are uncertain times, we are not uncertain people. And this is really the time to celebrate and embrace the strength of our ancestors who have made it through and have given us the skills to be able to make it through as well. We're fishermen, we're hunters, we're gatherers, and we look out for each other, and we share what we have with others, and that's what's going to help us. So I know it's a really stressful time, so take extra time to be good to each other and look out for each other. I'm also going to share some of the mistakes I've made. I'll do that later. Kind of embarrassing, kind of funny, but that's okay. It's who we are. So it's also really important to be a good example to others, especially to children, because they're watching and they're counting on us as the adults to help keep them safe. So, we need to remember that, yes, self-quarantining and being alone in your space with your family may feel like an inconvenience for you, but I also know that it's going to save somebody else's life, maybe an elder or somebody who's immunocompromised. And so folks have heard that word a lot. What the heck does immunocompromised mean? It might be somebody who was born with an autoimmune deficiency, a challenge. If you are one of those folks, you probably know what that means. But it also could be somebody who, who is fighting cancer, somebody who's on dialysis, somebody who lives with lupus, somebody who lives with diabetes, somebody who has AIDS. Other high-risk people are those who have asthma, somebody who's pregnant. And so in my house, I have two of those folks. My mother, who's 76, she just turned 76 this year, although when people asked her how old she was going to be, she said, I'm going to be 80. And I said, Mom, you're going to be 76? And she said, yeah, I'm going to be 80 in 4 years. So I always crack up every time I think about that. And I also have a daughter, my youngest daughter, Gunalchéesh is 16, and she has asthma. and so she is also high risk. And so I know a lot of people are looking to Facebook and the media to look at, the kinds of things you should do to protect yourself and to protect your family. And so as we're doing that, I just want to remind ourselves, and this is kind of what I'm doing to get through it all, that it's important to be responsible about what you say, both in person and on social media. And so before I post something, I ask myself, is it helpful? And is it true? And how do you check? So for me, I'm looking to see, is it backed by the CDC? And if I don't know, then I'm checking the Google, as my mom calls it, or I'm also checking Snopes, S-N-O-P-E-S. So I'm going to share some things that are out there on social media that are not true. So these are some of the things that I'm seeing on social media that are not true. Some people are saying, well, it's really not that bad. It's not that bad. Well, I'll tell you as a public health person, it is that bad. And we need to take this seriously. Other folks are saying, well, I feel fine, so I'm not sick. The truth is, you may feel fine, and you may be asymptomatic, which just means that you're not feeling the effects yet. It may mean that you are still a carrier, but everybody that you come into contact with can still be infected. And so here's why we are practicing social distancing. In Alaska, we have 734,000 people in Alaska, but we only have a little over 1,200 hospital beds, not including the military and not including API. So what do those numbers mean? What that means is that even if only one half of 1% of Alaskans, 1/2 require hospitalization, that's 3,670 people. And what that means is that 1 out of 3 people would have to be turned away at the hospital because they just can't handle that number of people. So this is really serious, and it's about, you may have heard people talking about flattening the curve, and we're trying to make sure that we keep those transmission rates low. So the other thing I've heard that's not true is, well, this is a conspiracy. It's about politics. It's about elections. And that's not true. It's not about elections. It's not about politics. It's about keeping people alive. The other thing I've heard from some folks I've seen posted is, well, this is a conspiracy. And look, even my Lysol container or my antibacterial wipes say it kills the coronavirus, and I bought these 2 years ago. Well, the coronavirus has been around for a while. What we're dealing with right now is something called COVID-19, and COVID-19 is a kind of coronavirus. So coronavirus is just a bigger, group of viruses which has been around a while. But COVID-19 is new. And it has a higher infection rate and a higher fatality rate and hospitalization rate. So the other thing I'm seeing people post is, well, gargle with salt water, that'll help. That'll kill the coronavirus, and it will not. Gargling with salt water will help. It'll make you feel better, but it will not kill the coronavirus. The other thing that I've seen people posting is, use a hairdryer. Heat will kill the virus. Take a steam bath. And heat will not kill the coronavirus at the level that your hairdryer has. And if you took a steam bath at the level that would kill the coronavirus, it would literally, you would be like a roast. It would cook you alive. And so, yes, take a steam bath because it's good for bathing. But the steam bath itself isn't going to kill the COVID-19. It's the soap and the water that you use in the steam bath that will kill the virus. So wash, wash, wash. And I'm not sharing these things to scare you. I'm not sharing these things to be somehow or dramatic. As my grandmother would say, I'm sharing hard things because I love you and I want you to make it through. There's definitely been a run on sanitizer and toilet paper, and I can tell you, man, we sure love our stuff. It's like, wow. COVID-19 doesn't really impact your stuff. Your stuff's going to be just fine. You don't need to hoard on toilet paper. So you should definitely stock up if you can find it on hand sanitizer. There's lots of recipes for hand sanitizer, and there's one on there that says, you know, use alcohol or rubbing alcohol and also aloe. And I know in the village, where the heck are you going to find that aloe? It doesn't grow around here. Well, here's the pro tip. You don't actually need the aloe. The aloe is just used to gel it up and to moisturize your hands. And you can just use 60% alcohol and 30% water. So you can use, you know, put 2/3 of a cup of alcohol and 1/3 of a cup of water and put it in a spray bottle and spray things down that way. The other thing that will work is hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide also works. And then the other is, but it will bubble, just so you know. And you can also use bleach. You can dilute the bleach. For bleach to be effective, use 1 teaspoon of bleach per cup of water. Just test it on something to make sure that it doesn't stain your stuff. So here's one of the reasons that my family and I are taking this seriously. If you can see behind me, this couple in my upper, I'm not sure which corner, right above my head in the black and white photo or picture, is a picture of my grandma and my appa. And in their time, they had 9 kids and only 4 of them lived. And so it's really, really important to take this seriously. My mother was one of the 4 who lived, and she and her sister survived because they were really good hand washers. And for that reason, all of those ladies' kids are really good hand washers, and I am extra vigilant. Somebody just asked on here for bleach. It was 1 teaspoon of bleach per cup of water. So if you're going to make 2 cups, then 2 teaspoons of bleach for 2 cups of water. You know, a lot of folks were saying, you know, why are people so worried? And one of the reasons is because just in one generation, in my mother's generation, we lost half of our populations or even more in our communities, and that's why we take it seriously. So here's what I'm doing, and it may seem like extra, and that's okay. I'm okay with being extra this time. I'm not extra about lots of things, but I am extra about this, and I'm all right with that. So what I have done is my house is on lockdown. I'm not letting my mother, who is 76, and my youngest daughter, Alana, who has asthma, I'm not letting them leave the house. They're not going anywhere. And so what I have done is I have disinfected everything in my house that has a handle. And if you think about it, you use your hand to touch anything with a handle. So anything that has a handle gets disinfected with either that bleach solution I mentioned, 1 teaspoon of bleach to 1 cup of water in a spray bottle, or let's put it in a bowl and you can wash that. That will work too. So I'm doing the door handle at the front door, the door lock, all the doors in the house, inside and outside, on both sides. And here's something that not a lot of people are talking about, but I know when my kids were little, and still to a degree today, I would always see right above the door handle on the door on both sides, they'd look real greasy. It's because most kids use their hand to touch the door handle, but then they touch the main part of the door. So you really should disinfect 6 inches above and 6 inches below the door handle, because that's where what kids reach for. I disinfected the freezer and all of the fridge handles, the coffee pot handle and all of the buttons, the teapot handle, the oven handle, the stovetop knob, microwave handle. If you have an Instant Pot or rice cooker, the handles of those and buttons. I'm disinfecting the remotes and our phones every day. More than once if somebody has to go out to get some supplies, and right now that designated person in my house is me, and I only go out when I have to. I'm also disinfecting the light switches in the whole house, and both directions. So flip your light switch on and flip your light switch off, and do that. Don't use spray for those light switches, though. You might cause problems. Use something with like a cloth to wipe that down, or a sanitizer wipe. Let's see. I'm wiping down, obviously, the kitchen table, something I do every day. But the other thing is your chairs. Wipe down your kitchen chairs. Think about all the times when you sit down and you grab your chair to move it in and out. And so wipe down those kitchen chairs. Cabinet handles, including everything around them, drawer handles, fronts of cabinets, toothbrush handles, hairbrush handles, shower handles, pretty much everything. The other things I'm doing is I always change the hand towels and kitchen towels at least once a day, and now I'm doing it more frequently, so at least twice a day. If you're lucky to have a dishwasher, use it because it also disinfects the dishes. If you don't have a dishwasher, that's okay, just use hot soapy water. And if you want to be extra careful, things that go into your mouth every day, like spoons and forks, or if you have metal straws, you can put them in a pan and just cover them with boiling water, and that will kill the coronavirus and also disinfect. Something else to consider is the height of the people who live in your house. So do you have a baby? And disinfect everything that a baby can reach. So that's table legs, chair legs, the lower part of the fridge, lower part of the cupboards, walls. If your baby is learning how to walk, disinfect the coffee table. I know when my oldest daughter was learning how to walk, she walked circles around that coffee table and held on to the coffee table. She did I think she did a marathon a day around that coffee table. And really everything that baby grabs onto, you should disinfect. So here's how extra I'm being, and this one is going to be really hard for me. My oldest one, Kylie, or Daya, is coming home from college tonight, just before midnight. And I made sure I booked her flight, not coming through Seattle. She's actually going to go through Portland. But I'm just assuming that the coronavirus is everywhere, and I'm treating everybody like they are a carrier. So when I pick her up, this is what I'm going to do. And this is going to be really hard, because even though what I want to do most of all is I want to naka her. I want to smell her, and I want to naka her up so hard that her cheeks are suctioned right up into my nostrils. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give her the biggest smile, and I'm going to tell her I love her. And yes, I'm aware I just touched my face to show you that. And I'll definitely wash my hands again when I'm done. It's really, really hard not to touch your face, which is why you should wash your hands as much as possible, because we touch our faces even without thinking about it. So when I see her, I'm going to give her the biggest smile. I'm going to tell her I love her. And once she gets in the car, I'm going to let her handle her own luggage. Once she gets in the car, I'm going to put some hand sanitizer into her hands. When we get home, I'm going to open the door and I'm for her so she doesn't touch the door. I'm going to send her straight to the bathroom to wash her hands, and I'm going to make her take a shower. I'm going to use gloves to take her clothes and put them in the washer and wash in hot water, including her coat. And I'll disinfect her luggage while she's showering. And I'm also going to retrace her steps while she's in the shower and disinfect everything that she might have touched, which would be the door handle, the stairs railing, bathroom door, shower handles, etc. And so if you have anybody who has traveled or anybody who comes into your home, then you may want to take the same measures. So some of you are wondering, well, how are we going to get through this all? Well, it's really, it's time to go old school. Take out your sourdough that's sitting in the fridge. If you don't know how to make, sourdough, it's pretty simple. You don't need somebody's 100-year-old sourdough. One-day-old sourdough will work. Just dissolve a package of yeast in 2 cups of water, add 2 cups of flour, mix it up. It'll be real thick. Cover it, leave it overnight, and the next day it's sourdough. Just when you want to use it, just take a little bit out, put it in a container. If you want to make sourdough pancakes, you can just add an egg if you want. You don't have to have an egg. And then add a little bit of baking soda and whip it up, and you can use that to make sourdough pancakes. Now would also be a good time to make sourdough bread and sourdough biscuits. Now is the time to do all those old school things your parents did, like making your own bread. What are you eating for breakfast? Cereal is good, but cereal takes lots of milk. So we're eating more oatmeal, good old cornmeal mush. Remember that stuff? Our parents used it for a reason. Beans are a good source of protein. If you can't find rice, and you know how we love our soup, and you can't find pasta, or you're running out of potatoes, use oatmeal to thicken your soup and to add a little bit of extra structure, or use barley. Any kind of grain will work. But I have to tell you, I learned the hard way about using oatmeal and barley in your soup. Don't use too much, because a little bit goes a long way, and otherwise you'll end up having soup mush, which is still good, but man, it's a little bit thick. And then every once in a while, when we're all kind of struggling to make it work, bust out a treat for your family. Make something you don't make all the time. A couple days ago, I whipped out a batch of brownies. Not those kinds, regular brownies. And you can make cookies, you can make cake. If you have some kind of a sweet, muffins, whatever it is, every once in a while, take out and make something sweet or some kind of treat, because it's really important to help. It gives folks a little surprise, something they can look forward to. And then don't forget to mix in some fun. Start a fire outside, dress warm, start a fire, cook up some hot dogs. Wrap some bread dough around a stick, add some s'more, or make some s'mores. Make pizza in your house. So here's some of the mistakes I made, and God bless me. Man, when I do something, I really do it, and that includes my mistakes. So my youngest bunny came one night, and she was real upset with me, and she was crying, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said,
that she was already really stressed about everything that was happening, and she was feeling really anxious. And I said, it's okay. And she said, but I feel like I'm all alone, and you're on your phone all the time. And man, that was a wake-up call. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to stay on top of everything that's happening in the news. I'm trying to look at Facebook to make sure that if somebody is posting something that's not true and it's unhelpful and dangerous, I'm reaching out to ask them to take it down. And for those of you who may have been one of those people, I'm sorry if I'm blunt. I don't mean any disrespect. I just want to make sure that we're protecting each other. And that includes asking people to remove information that's not true. And I said, Alana, I'm so sorry that I'm not paying enough attention to you. And she said, I need you, Mom. I need you to pay attention to me. And I felt so horrible. I felt so small. And I felt like a horrible mother. And I said to her, I said, Alana, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, here's what I don't want to ask you to do something, but in this case, I really do. I'm going to ask you to tell me, Mom, pay attention to me. I need you. Because if you're being subtle, I may not hear you. I may not understand. And I'm so worried, like everybody else, and I'm just trying to keep everybody safe, including you, that you have to be really honest with me. You have to be really serious. And so we agreed to do that for each other. The other mistake I made is my best friend, who's been my best friend since we were 4 in Head Start, her husband is on dialysis, and I hadn't heard from her, and I thought she was doing fine, and she is. She's doing all of the right things. But she called me yesterday, and it reminded me that even though we think somebody's doing fine and they're handling it just fine, they just need to hear another voice, because there are some folks who are really isolated right now. And so don't make the same mistakes I did. It's easy to do, and it's okay. Don't beat yourself up about the mistakes you've made. We've all done it, and all we can do is correct our behavior and move forward. And be good to each other, and that includes being good to yourself. So the last few things I wanted to say is that one of the things that my grandmother taught me is when you lead with love, you never stand alone. And I think we're all seeing that all around us, including on this phone call. In terms of things you're doing for yourself and for your family and for each other to keep each other safe, reminds me of something I learned a long time ago, which is that sometimes you have to do something because it's hard. Not even though it's hard. Sometimes you have to do something because it's hard. And this is one of those times. And also, I learned a long time ago that people will do the most amazing things under the most impossible of conditions as long as they have the right reason. And children and families are always the right reason. And so thank you for joining us all in this effort to be extra of washing your hands. It's continuously throughout the day, because you don't realize how often you touch your face. I do it constantly, pretty much. Yes, my hands are chapped, but that's okay. After you wash your hands, you can cover them with salve. If you don't have salve, you know what works too is Crisco, or anything like that works well. So I didn't realize I was talking so long, and I think we might be almost out of time. So Quyana, to everybody, for everything that you're doing on behalf of our children and our families, we love you too much, as my grandma used to say.
Quyana, cakneq. Gunalchéesh, so much for taking your time with us today, Val, for sharing all the things that you're thinking about. all the things that you're doing, all the ways that you're trying to protect your family, and also by doing so, protecting our whole community and our whole state. And that's really kind of one of the things that I heard in your message and the advice that you shared with everyone. What you started with, I think, is something that all of our people inherently know, but it's always good to be reminded, and that is that while these may be uncertain times, we are not uncertain people, and we know how to take care of each other. And while there are some new protocols that make it a little bit awkward for us as Native people who we love to hug and nucha and sniff each other's cheeks when we hug each other, that right now the best we can do is do that virtually. And I just really want to say, Quyana, Gunalchéesh, thank you so much for taking your time with us.
Quyana,